UNLV has an opportunity to pass Boise State in the rankings. That's how the AP voters could see their game with Syracuse tonight. Allegiant Stadium, Rebels are favored. Quarterback change doesn't matter. Barry Odom, Brendan Marion and company, those guys are just good football coaches. That's what they have done. They're winning at a program where you're not supposed to win, where nobody has won in my lifetime. But the Rebels, along with Boise State, one of the favorites in the Mountain West. Now, here's how the Rebels could move past Boise State in the rankings and alter the G5 playoff race. And once again, I'll remind the good people of G5 football world out there, far be it from me to ever forget or miss an opportunity to remind everybody that the G5 is getting a team into the playoff this year, whether you like it or not. And right now, I'd put my money on the Mountain West champion. I might put my money on whoever beats the other team when UNLV squares off against Boise State in a few weeks. UNLV is really impressive. They've not just throttled Fresno State. They didn't just beat Kansas with a cross-country trip. They beat Houston too. And look, Houston is terrible. They are not good. But UNLV still has 2 Power 4 wins, a dominant win over Fresno State. Boise State has a really good win against Washington State. It's a good football team. Washington State should have been in the top 25 when they went to Boise. They were not. Alas, here we are. Boise State's in the top 25, but so too is UNLV. And when you're a Mountain West team and you have the opportunity to go up against somebody who is at the very least respectable in a Power 4 conference, which Syracuse absolutely is. I know they lost to Stanford. They're still a respectable team. That gets circled, that gets etched into the minds of those who are voting on college football, of those who are deciding the AP poll or the college football playoff or what have you. People remember that sort of stuff. So if UNLV goes out and makes a big statement on Friday night against Syracuse, do not be surprised if come next week when the AP poll comes out, if Boise State doesn't do what they're supposed to do against Utah State, which is, throttle the Aggies. Don't be surprised if the Rebels are the highest ranked Group of 5 team in the country. Now, those aren't the only interesting Group of 5 games as the playoff hunt continues about, and there are some good teams out there. Make no mistake about it. It doesn't have to be a team from the Mountain West. James Madison is undefeated. Watch out for the Dukes. I know that they lost their head coach in the offseason. He's now tearing it up at Indiana, but JMU, strong program, a lot of support. They're 4-0. UNLV, Boise State, favorites in the Mountain West. Looks like a 2-horse race. We'll see if Tim Skipper and Fresno State can figure it out. It's a tough task. It's a tall task, not just for Tim Skipper to try to get himself free of the interim label as the head coach of the Bulldogs, but to also win a conference championship, compete for a conference championship at that time. It's not easy. It's not easy. Saw Jake Dickert do it many years ago at Washington State back when the Pac-12, RIP, had divisions. He was the interim head coach, and they very nearly came out of there as the Pac-12 North champions. They came up just short, and Jake Dickert was then hired as the head coach because it was a really valiant effort. That's what Tim Skipper is trying to do. I don't have a lack of confidence that he can figure it out there. I just don't know if Fresno State can elevate to the level where Boise and UNLV have been, because they've been really impressive. And if UNLV wins this game, they're sizable favorites. They're favored by around a touchdown against a Power 4 team. I know they're at home, but are you telling me, FanDuel, that if UNLV went to Syracuse, went on the road against an ACC school, you'd favor them? That's bonkers. That's bonkers. UNLV isn't even supposed to be favored against any Mountain West team, but Barry Odom and company, they're coaching themselves right into a bigger job at some point. That is going to be a hot, and I mean a hot commodity. The go-go offense, I love the go-go. I'm a big fan of the go-go. Please put me down as a fan of the go-go offense with Brendan Marion. It's just fun. It's unique. It's exciting. It's up-tempo. It's creative. It's explosive. It does all sorts of really good things. And at the end of the day, are they running a lot of the same concepts that everybody else does, and it's a lot of window dressing? Sure. But is that window dressing exciting and fun to watch? You bet your rear end it is. They got a quarterback who can run. He can throw a little bit as well, but the Rebels like to run the football, and they're just a good football team. They're just a good football team. So if they add a third Power 4 win to their resume, boy, that is going to put them in really good territory to push for the G5 playoff spot. Now, do they have to win the Mountain West? Yeah, of course. Of course you do, because Unless you're going to go 12-0, which that's not going to happen, right? Syracuse, Utah State, Oregon State, Boise State, Hawaii, San Diego State, San Jose State, Nevada. Wait a minute. Now you have to go to Corvallis. That's going to be a difficult game. You get to host Boise State, though. You don't have to go play on the blue turf. You don't have to play on the Smurf turf. You can play on your home field in the cozy confines of Allegiant Stadium, however full that beautiful spectacle of football ends up being for a home game against the Broncos. And I'm sure you'll have plenty of Boise fans in the building come October 25th. But I'm just throwing it out there. What if UNLV? Now, we asked the same questions about Air Force a year ago. Hey, they're 6-0. They're ranked in the top 25. What if they go undefeated? And then it didn't happen. Turns out going undefeated in any conference, no matter who you are, is incredibly difficult. You know why? Because even if you're not playing a high level of competition relative to the rest of the country, you don't have the same level of talent on your roster compared to the rest of the country that is pushing for a college football playoff spot. So UNLV is an at-large. That's a dicey proposition, but not an impossible one. Not when you've got not one, but two, but potentially three Power 4 wins. If you were to toss Oregon State into the mix, it'd be kind of hard to overlook the Rebels in there. But they're focused on getting the Mountain West Championship. I'm sure Barry Odom is just focused on beating Syracuse. It's not going to be an easy football game. Kyle McCord and the Orange, they're having a solid first year for Fran Brown and company. Can they go on the road? Can they figure out how to crack the code that is UNLV? Nobody's done it so far. Kansas couldn't do it. Fresno State wasn't close. Houston wasn't close. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Lots of fun to watch. Boise State, by the way, about a 3-touchdown favorite against Utah State. They should steamroll. They should steamroll. And at a time where your Mountain West competitor, whose resume you might be compared to going into a conference championship game situation, or if the craziest were to happen, I'm just saying, Boise State doesn't have all the Power 4 opportunities necessarily that UNLV does. Now, Boise State has a close loss on the road to Oregon. That continues to look pretty darn good for both sides. Quite frankly, it's still a loss. UNLV doesn't have one yet. I think if you're Boise State, you might want to root for UNLV to lose just in case. Just in case it comes down. Now, they're in the same conference. So would they get compared side by side for a playoff spot? Probably not, unless the crazy were to happen and they were to win like 11 games and 12 games, and then one wins the conference title but somehow is in the highest ranked, and you had an at-large resume off. That probably won't happen because college football is historically normal, right? Yeah. Okay. For those listening on podcast, I winked in really, really poor fashion. A couple other games to keep an eye on in the G5 this week. Again, big fan of the G5. They're getting a team to the playoff. Whether I like it or not, that's a thing that's going to happen every single year for the next 2 years. And even in that new proposal that the Big Ten and SEC want to have 4 auto bids each, they still let the G5 get an auto bid. Navy and Army, those are American teams, remember. Don't forget that. Navy's 4-0, 10-point favorite on the road against Air Force. Army's 4-0, 11.5-point favorite against Tulsa on the road. Are they both winning? Are they going to keep things going? Watch out. Watch out for the service academies. Now, Air Force couldn't keep it going last year. Last time I checked, these teams are not Air Force. That's who Navy plays this week. But am I interested? Yeah. Yeah, it turns my head. Turns my head because that 0 in the loss column for any Group 5 team looks a lot better than a 1 or a 2 or a 3. Tulane's got 2 losses. Memphis has got 1 loss to Navy. Yeah, you thought of Memphis as a G5 playoff team coming into the year. Well, guess what? You better think of Navy that way as being capable because beat them head-to-head just like that. I'm excited for another weekend of football, as always. I appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.